So here's the Cliff Paul story. I'll give you the Cliff Notes on it. So
wait. You got to get the bell. Got to get the bell on.
This last period, y'all. Make sure. In closing.
So I was at Translation, and we were working with State Farm already, and we were doing all the magic jingle work. I don't know if you remember, but like a neighbor, State Farm is there, and the agent would show up. Right?
Yeah.
We're doing all that work. And one of those spots featured LeBron James. LeBron James is close with Steve Stout. LeBron's telling State Farm, like, y'all need to work with Stout, like he's the guy, which is kind of the end. And we're like killing it, man. We are killing it with the magic jingle work. And the client's like, hey, love what you guys are doing, especially getting like young people, quote unquote millennials. And I hate that moniker, but anyway, like, we have this major investment in the NBA, but we're not seeing any like real material returns from it. Help. And we go, okay, cool. So the question we ask ourselves is, well, what business does State Farm have to be in the NBA? Like, they were wrapping backboards and jumbotrons. It was a step and repeats. It's just wallpaper, basically. So it's like, well, what does State Farm believe as a brand? How do they see the world? Well, what does State Farm want to mean to the world? State Farm, they create insurance, they provide insurance, but they exist to help people live life more confidently every day, right? And they just so happen to have thousands of agents across the country to help you make better decisions. They just so happen to sell insurance, but what they do is to help people live life more confidently every day. We go, all right, cool. So how does that play into the NBA? Well, there's an actual statistic for helping people in the NBA called an assist. And we go, oh, that's the way in, an assist. And you go, okay, well, who's responsible for the assists? Well, unless you're LeBron James, the point guard typically does most of the assists. At the time, the most sort of famous, beloved, talented point guard on the court was Chris Paul, who also happened to be the Players Association president. And this is at a time where the NBA was in a lockout. They were striking. And everyone loved Chris Paul. Everyone loved Chris Paul. He was like this beloved guy, like, just reputation.
Great image, everything. Yeah.
Exactly.
No
blemishes. Yeah.
Exactly. So we knew that, like, we're going to go with point guard. We're going to land on assists. That's the way in. And the thing is, like, assists aren't sexy. No one tunes into ESPN to watch the assist of the week, just like insurance isn't sexy. So it's like all the right connective tissue. So we thought of an idea. It's that, what if we seeded a rumor to make people believe that Chris Paul had a twin brother from whom he was separated at birth, named Cliff Paul. One went on to be an all-star NBA player. The other went on to be an all-star State Farm agent. And the question we're posing is it real? And like, for me, when we sort of landed on this kind of creative hook, I was like, oh, we got to Blair Witch Project this thing. Like,
right.
We got to make people think it's real.
Right.
We have to really make people think it's real. So we partnered with Deadspin and Complex just to start seeding the rumor that, when Chris Paul was on the court playing basketball, there was a guy off the court with a mustache who looked just like Chris Paul. Who is this guy? Small rumor. No one's paying attention to it, of course. But on Christmas Day, which is the highest viewership of NBA games, we aired the spot where Chris Paul was separated his brother Cliff Paul. One went on to be a State Farm agent, all-star. Another one to be a basketball player, all-star. Is it real? And when the spot dropped, we launched a Twitter handle for Cliff Paul, where Chris and Cliff were tweeting each other saying, I always knew something was missing in my life, and now I know what it is. It's my twin brother. It's a Christmas miracle.
Oh, that's fire. That's fire.
I
think that's genius.
What's going on?
That's genius.
And we were able to get like Blake Griffin, Carmelo Anthony's wife, Lala, wife, but Kenny the Jet Smith, they all like chimed in, was like, oh, couldn't happen to better people. Happy for the Paul brothers. So people are like, yo, what in the world is going on? In fact, Cliff Paul was trending over Merry Christmas on Christmas Day.
Wow.
Murder. So we just kind of
That's
kept going,
crazy.
like
That's
so
crazy.
we kept going with the campaign. Like we made sure that Cliff Paul had credentials to the All-Star game because that's the second highest viewership of basketball. We made sure they kept talking to each other. We put fat heads in all the seats at the then Staples Center, so that when people got to their seats, there's a fat head of Cliff Paul. So what do they do? Hold it up, take pictures on camera during the game. You see the fat heads, right? It's just like over and over this sort of repetition. And the theory was that we would use culture as a catalyst for recall, because the entire industry, the insurance industry, runs off a recall. That's why every insurance company has like some mnemonic, right? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. State Farms for Allstate. That's Allstate standard. You in good hands. We are farmers. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
15 minutes gets 50% or less. Like all these things were mnemonics that drive recall because they know recall is the biggest predictor of pick up the phone to get a policy.
Right.
So the notion is that if we get everyone to talk about Cliff Paul as a byproduct of State Farm, then State Farm gets cultural recall. And if you look at the amount of new policies that we were able to acquire for State Farm, it was a hockey stick. Unbelievable.
Crazy.
It's unbelievable.
Crazy.
Yeah, oh man, that's a home run. Yeah, that shit got me excited.
It's more than a home run, bro. That's one of those like, how do you top that?